Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. For this video, I'm going to go over the top 15 purchases of 2021. 2021, I thought, even though we're coming off the heels, not really coming off the heels, we're still in the pandemic, I thought 2021 was a better year than 2020. I think a lot of people would agree, obviously outside collecting. But for me, when it comes to the collecting side, I think it was pretty good. I was unable to get some of the huge books that I would normally like to get, but still I think I was able to get some pretty decent sized books and really overall nice additions to my collection. So like I said, I have a top 15 here. I could have had a top 20 or a top 25, but I tried to narrow it down to just a few, just to trim it down a bit. I didn't want it to be super long. Now for these books, there's a lot of ECs in here, of course, because 2021 was definitely, it brought me a lot of good ECs in my collection. The EC horror collection keeps growing. And a couple other goodies, obviously superhero books too. Now for each book, I'm not really going to talk that much about the books. I'll have in the description what comic book haul these books showed up, and in those haul videos probably have more of a description. So I don't really want to make this a super long video. All right, so we'll start off at the bottom at number 15. Haunt of Fear, number 4. Now, for anybody that knows about this book, it's not the easiest book to get. I'm not saying it's rare or scarce or anything like that, but it's not typically the easiest book to get. Classic mummy cover, great Feldstein mummy cover. Excuse me. I was lucky to have gotten that book in an auction, heritage auction, and I paid what I wanted to pay after the buyer's premium, after the shipping, after the taxes. So I was very happy to add that in my collection. This one showed up earlier in the year, a nice mid-grade copy, I would say right down the middle, maybe 5.55 copy of a single-digit Fantastic Four, number 7. I've always liked this cover. And last year around this time, I said to myself, well, probably before last year this time, I said I really wanted to add this book to my collection for 2021, and I did. I actually bought it from Main Street Comics in Milltown, my local comic book shop. He had a great set of Fantastic Four books, and I was privy to picking out a couple for my own collection. Here we have number 30 of Tales from the Crypt. Now, the reason why this, other than it being a really, really cool cover, the Prospector cover, Drowning, pretty brutal. Main reason why, other than the cover, that this is in my top 15 purchases for 2021 is because this was the very last book I needed to complete my Tales from the Crypt run. Again, if you've been following my channel, I was able to finally get every issue of Tales from the Crypt, which also included the 3 Crypt of Terrors and the 2 crime patrols that led up to Crypt of Terror, which led to Tales from the Crypt. So that was the very last book I needed, and I was super happy to finally add it to my collection and finish that run. And you could also see my Tales from the Crypt complete run. I did a video where I showcased the entire collection, and I even said what grades they're in. So pretty cool. Here's another EC for you EC fans out there. I think it was a pretty good, I would rank it in here in the top 15 because it's a classic cover, Vault of Horror number 30. Classic arm hanging from the subway handle. Great Johnny Craig cover. And Johnny Craig, he would probably be my second favorite EC artist. My first, as you know, is Graham Ingalls. But he and Graham Ingalls are very close when it comes to my top EC artist. But that's definitely a great cover in the Vault run. Now, but let's go back to a superhero book. And this is, again, I got this from my local comic book shop earlier in the year. I finally was able to add a nice mid-grade copy of Daredevil number 7. This book has always eluded me over the years. I often say that, yes, I want to get this book, I want to get that book, but it's very low on the list, or I just forget about it and I don't wind up getting it in time, or at least in my mind, the correct time to get it. And this was one of them. Now, as you know, with Daredevil, Daredevil #1 has been spiking over the last year and a half because, let's face it, that was a very underrated book to begin with. It really, regardless of what you think of Daredevil, very underrated book, and finally the book is starting to rise in price. But a lot of the other single-digit Daredevils are not really that expensive. I mean, I guess expensive is to each his own, right? But #7 tends to be, I think, the next priciest book in the single-digit Daredevil run. Not necessarily Daredevil #2, as it would be with most other books in a run like that. But Daredevil #7, the first appearance of the Red Costume, and, as I was talking about EC, artist Wally Wood did the cover for that. So that's pretty cool. And again, speaking of EC, we jump back to EC. Here we have Crypt of Terror #18. Again, another book that's not very easy to get. This is actually the second copy I was able to pick up. I sold off my original copy, which was probably a 2.5. That one, I forget. I think I won that particular copy 2 years ago off of Heritage. And it was very much a 2.5. I was just super happy to get it because it's not an easy book to get. Crypt of Terror 18. It's not an easy book to get. So over a year ago, I told the story how I was able to, and I think it was the first comic book haul of the year. I forget which one it is, 41 or whatever. I'll leave in the comments, leave in the description, rather, how I was able to finally get that book, which is also a Gary Arlington copy. Now, Gary Arlington copies, from my understanding, for any of you fan addicts that are watching, you can correct me in the comments. Gary Arlington copies are not necessarily, this was his own personal copy. He had a bunch of copies of ECs, and this one just so happened to be one of them, but it wasn't necessarily his own personal copy that he had for years. He had a bunch of issues, a bunch of multiple copies of each issue, and they were in his collection for a while before they started going out. So that's what I think it means when it comes to Gary Arlington copy. It's a little different. So here we jump back to superheroes. We got a couple superheroes up ahead, and I think this was in the Halloween haul, #44. Finally, I was able to get a nice copy of Ghost Rider #1. I purchased this from Mike. Now, it's a different Mike. I know a bunch of Mikes. I know my comic book shop, local comic book shop owner. His name is Mike, but also Mike, as you know, from YouTube. I bought this copy from him. And I think it was really great. You should really check out his website, sellingcomics.com. He has a lot of great books up there, just fantastic. But that was one of the books that he sold me. And as a matter of fact, before we end this video, I have another book that I got from him. So I recommend him entirely. And no, he didn't pay me to say that. I'm just saying it because it's true. Here's another one from my local comic book shop. His name is Mike. We have Amazing Spider-Man #8. Like I said with the Fantastic Four #7, I was privy to an early Amazing Spider-Man collection from my local comic book shop, and I saw this one, and this was one of the ones I needed. Aside from the Amazing Spider-Man #1, which I need, which I hopefully will get one day, I only need a few more Amazing Spider-Man books from numbers 1 through 20. I have most of the bigger ones, like I said, except for #1. But this was another one that I really needed, and I was able to pick up a couple more from my local comic book shop in that 1 through 20 range. But anyway, I ranked this one because it's a single-digit one, and one that I really wanted, and it's also one that I think that is not the most liked out of the single-digit Spider-Mans. You could say that the #1 is the best one, it's definitely. But then there's so many other good ones. You have the first Doc Ock, you have the first Sandman, you have the first Lizard, you have the first Electro, you have a Doctor Doom appearance in there, a second Vulture, the first Vulture. So there's a lot going on within those first 9 issues. Then you have #8, which is a sort of there. It's the first appearance. I always forget this guy. I think most people do. So I think it's the first appearance of the Living Brain. Well, who's that? But still a great book to pick up. Now, this one did not come from my local comic book shop. This came from mycomicshop.com. I purchased this one earlier in the year, and it's really a great copy. Great copy. I say it's about a 5.0. Fantastic Four, maybe even a 5.5. Fantastic Four number 13, the first appearance of the Watcher. Now I know the Watcher, he's on that What If show that's on. I haven't watched the What If show. I really haven't watched much of the Disney Plus shows because I've watched Loki for the most part, and I watched WandaVision. You know, honestly, they were okay. I mean, they're really nothing to brag about, but that's just my opinion. So, that being said, I haven't had much interest in watching any of the other Disney Plus shows, like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't care. What If, with that one, I don't care. Hawkeye, I don't care. You know, when X Factor comes out, if that comes out, I'll watch that one. But it's just I don't really care that much about them. They're just not, to me, it's just a little bit too much. But anyway, the Watcher makes his first appearance in Fantastic Four number 13. Now, we're heading back to EC. So for those of you that don't like watching or hearing about EC, you could skip over a little bit. Here we have a really important one. Haunt of Fear number 17. This is the second number 17. It's crazy to explain, but yeah, there are two number 17s, there are two number 16s, there are two number 15s, and I have them all. But this one here makes it because of the classic Graham Engels cover. Now, I purchased this. I did a purchase/trade with Stray Flexing, who's on Instagram and on Facebook. Couldn't have been an easier transaction. You know, I just love working with them. From that time I worked with him. I'd love to work with him again, Yanov. But so you might want to check out his page on Instagram. And no, he's not paying me to tell you that. It's just a good transaction and very nice guy. And he was able to get me, this book. This book for a while. I mean, it was never cheap. It really was. It wasn't cheap. But like a 6570 would probably cost you maybe 3 years ago, $500. 450, 550 in that range. Now forget it. It's 4 digits. Which may not seem much for some people, but for that kind of book, a lot of the pre-code books, as maybe some of you already know, have been spiking as of late. And I've always thought that EC was the more affordable pre-code horror books. And for the most part, I think they still are. But there has been a jump in value with them, and that one is one of them. That's jump. They have been getting pricier, so they're slowly starting to catch up to the other pre-code like Atlas books and was it Avon and others that I don't even know, that I don't remember or I'm not even aware of. Now, remember I said that was the first Haunt of Fear 17? Well, here's the second, and I believe this is at number 10. So even though I'm cheating, I'm giving both of these the number 10 spot. Say, well, why are you doing that? So it's really a top 16 best comics of 2021. But top 15 sounds so much better. And it's the two 17s. So they go together. As a matter of fact, with both 17s, this was also an Instagram purchase. And this is the first 17. I believe Haunt of Fear was Gunslinger before it became Haunt of Fear. And it became Haunt of Fear with number 15, and then 16, and then 17, and then it went to number 4, which was the first book I showed you in this haul, and then went from 4 all the way to 28. All the ECs have bizarre numbering. Most of the EC horrors have bizarre numbering schemes. But anyway, this is the first of the 17s, and this is the origin of the Crypt of Terror, the Vault of Horror, and the Haunt of Fear, or was that, the Witch's Cauldron, or whatever. I love this cover, and I've always loved this book, and I've loved the story, Horror Beneath the Streets. Like I said, it's the origin story. This one, however, even though I think that this 17, they both share the number 10 spot, is more sought out because of the cover. It's not rare. Okay, it's not a rare book, it's an expensive book. And sometimes rare does not equal expense or expensive. This one here is rarer. I think out of the 3 initial books that came out for Haunt of Fear, like I said, 15, 16, and 17, the 3 books that came out for the Vault of Horror, and the 3 books, the Crypt of Terrors, I think this tends to be the rarest of them all. I don't think it had too much. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, EC fan addicts who may be watching or are more knowledgeable on me, but I thought I remember reading that this one had a lower production value, and it's an origin book, so that those two things contribute to the expense of it. Moving right along, I mentioned Mike, not Mike from Main Street. I know they're all confusing. I know so many of them. This is Mike from YouTube, sellingcomics.com. Remember the other book I said he sold me? Well, this was it. I was lucky enough to get this a couple months before the announcement of the actor who's playing Adam Warlock. So this is the first full appearance of him, who later becomes Adam Warlock. We've all known that Adam Warlock was coming to the Marvel Universe since 2017 with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It got hot, and then people sort of forgot about it, out of sight, out of mind. But then when the announcement came who's going to be playing the actor, it sort of became official, and all the Adam Warlock books, including that one, which I think is the one everyone wants. I think people want that one over the Fantastic Four 67, because this is a full appearance. You know, that whole first full appearance versus a cameo appearance. Regardless, that's the one I think people want the most, and it's definitely a great one to have. But I was fortunate enough to get it a couple months before the spike. What I paid for that, it's probably easily doubled now for a nice 6.0 copy. Okay, we're winding down, everyone. Now, this is my first pre-code horror book that's outside of EC, and one that I said, which pre-code horror book within my budget can I get? Sure, I'd like to get Black Cat Mystery number 50, or Chamber of Chills 19, and then there's the other one. There's two of them that I really like. The one where the skeleton's kissing the girl, and then the one I prefer is the one with the skull holding up or the girl's skull or whatever, or the guy's skull's in the cup holding up. I forget which number that is, or how it goes. But those are some pretty cool pre-code horrors, and there's a bunch of others that I didn't even mention. But this was one of them that I really wanted, and I was able to get. Now, this wasn't in a traditional haul video. As a matter of fact, one of the second Haunt of Fear 17, I don't think I included that in a haul video, so I'm slipping. But this one was an unboxing. Mystic number 28. Nice book. Nice copy. I mean, it's a low-grade book, no doubt. But I'm very happy to have it. I love this cover. I mean, this cover is just amazing. I've often found that a lot of the ECs have great covers too. There's no doubt about it. But a lot of the pre-code outside EC, like Atlas and others, have such terrific covers. But there is a difference. There is a difference between these and EC. The stories are not that great. I've read a couple in reprint, and I read this, and I don't even think the cover story's in this. So a lot of the stories are very basic. Nothing really to write home about. Whereas when you read the ECs, some of them can be really scary, but a lot of them have humor in them, which keeps them alive, in my opinion, in the mind of the reader. Honestly, I couldn't remember a single story, and I read this from cover to cover. Couldn't remember a single story in this. But with these, I could tell you. Horror Beneath the Streets, origin story. They have Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein. They get lost, and they're drawn to the sewer where they go down, and then they encounter each and one of these, and these guys force them to sign a contract so they can publish their comics. It's memorable, but there's also humor in it too. This one, cover story, Horror-wee, how's Bayou? I think it's been said that that's one of the finest illustrated horror stories from the era. This one, don't know. Still, I realize the significance of this book, and I love the cover, and that's why I went for it. But some of the stories, I don't remember being displeased with the stories, but I really couldn't remember them for you. I really couldn't remember even one of them. And the other ones I've read too, can't really remember them. So I think that's where the Atlas and the other pre-code horror books, that's where they lack. The stories are really not that great. And we have the last three. Amazing Spider-Man number 50, first appearance of the Kingpin. This was in my recent Same thing with The Amazing Spider-Man 8, was in my recent haul, number 45, if you want to check that out. This is the third copy I've owned. First one I had was like a 3.5, had some tape on it. Then I got a 4.0, I think. It was CBCS. I really didn't like it that much. And then I finally got this. I was going between, I wanted to get between a 5.5 and a 6. So I got the 5.5 and I got it at the right time, because now this book is a lot more. So Kingpin, you know, it's a great book, but it's also a great cover by Romita. Now, I've been warming up to Romita covers. You know, anyone that watches my channel, you know I'm not a big John Romita fan. I have nothing against him, but I'm just not really into his artwork, and it's not one of those things like, how dare you replace Steve Ditko? You know, Steve Ditko will always be the best Amazing Spider-Man artist. I don't know about that one. I still think Todd McFarlane is. But Steve Ditko brought a lot to the character, there's no doubt about it. But I think John Romita did too. It's just that John Romita's artwork really didn't do it for me. Now, a lot of his covers are pretty good. Some of them are like, eh. But when I opened them up, I was like, oh wow, this is a pretty good cover by Romita, because I have a bunch of them from Romita that are not in the slab. And I open them up and I'm like, oof, this is why I don't like John Romita. Sorry, John Romita fans. We're all entitled to our opinions. Number 2 now. Last 2. Again, comes from Mike at my local comic book shop. That Fantastic Four collection that I looked through, that I purchased the number 7. Well, I also got a number 6. Nice mid-grade, 5.0. I don't think it's any better than a 5.0. It might even be a 4.5, so it teeters on straight down the line, mid-grade to high-low grade. But regardless, it's a great book to own. This is the second appearance of Doctor Doom, and it's also the first Marvel villain team-up and the second Silver Age appearance of the Submariner. So there's a lot going on in this book, and you know, I don't know, I hate to say it was underrated for a while, because I think it was always, and again, maybe it was underrated for a little while, you know, but now it's really caught on for those of you that can't really afford to get the first appearance of Doctor Doom. And you know, it's, talk about an explosion. About 4 or 5 years ago, people really, I mean, that book was always kind of pricey, but then people really started to pay attention to it. And 3 years ago, I think the book just exploded on all grades. It's crazy money for Fantastic Four 5. But for those of you that can't really get that one because of whatever reason, whether it's price or you just don't feel like spending that much money on a book, but you want like maybe the next best thing, you know, Fantastic Four 5 is, excuse me, a little bit of a Freudian slip. Fantastic Four 6 is the next best bet, I would say. And the last one for this video, like I said, nothing too big this year, but I like the books I was able to get for being able to finally add some to my collection, being able to finally upgrade some from my collection, and you know, having a little bit more meaning, is Amazing Spider-Man number 4. It's a 4.0, a nice looking 4.0, a very, very nice looking 4.0 for front and back cover. It really is. I don't understand why this is not a 5.0, but I'm not a professional grader like CGC. So, great book. This was a book that I was aiming to get for a while. I've always had a copy of Amazing Spider-Man 4, but I had a 2.5 copy, and I've been trying to upgrade it for years. And you know, this was finally the year that I was able to do it, and really add a copy that I'm happy with to my collection. So, what were some of the best buys you got in 2021? Was 2021 better for you? And when it comes to the hobby and things of that nature, let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon.